Hello and welcome to a Married to Autism, my Married to Autism channel. We went for a drive to a local beach, and during that drive we saw some lovely houses, and it got me thinking, which is never a good thing. In the early days when I met him, and yes, it's related, don't worry, hold that thought. I was speaking to his best friend's girlfriend. He'd known this guy for a really long time, and that means that she had also known him for a really long time. So I was talking to her just about things that were happening and trying to get her perspective, because this is like early days, a year in of living with him, and I don't understand what's happening. And I remember her saying to me, "You're really negative. You have nothing positive to say about him." And she was sort of acting like I was this really terrible girlfriend because he was this really lovely guy, and I needed to just get lost and get out of his life because I was the problem. The fact that I was unhappy and questioning just about everything he did, in her mind, meant that I was the problem, because she'd always seen him as this really lovely, sweet, romantic, generous, loving guy. And I'm sort of sitting there and scratching my head and thinking, I just don't understand how it is that people have this perception of him. I'm in a relationship with him, and that is not what is happening. He's not being affectionate and sweet and romantic, and like, how did these people have this one idea of him? And I had this wholly other idea of him, and it just confused me at the time. I was really sort of, taken aback. And I did have a moment where I was sitting there and thinking, is it me? Am I just like negative Nelly and nobody can please me and I'm that person, And I mean, again, like, if I refer to my exes, I didn't have those issues with them, so I couldn't have suddenly changed overnight into this negative, unpleasable person. But, I did have a moment of wondering. But mostly I was thinking, you don't get it. You just have no idea what it's like. And she really didn't. She didn't know that he was going to work, coming home, having dinner, whilst watching the TV all night, and going to bed. And that was our life, all day, every day. And it was really hard to explain that to her. And on the odd occasion, say once a week or so, you'd want to get jiggy with it and try to put the moves on me at night time. That was one variable. But mostly it was just that. And it was really unsatisfying and empty, and I couldn't get her to understand that. Anyway, so how does all this fit into the houses? Okay, so after we went to the beach and we saw all these lovely houses, I started thinking how there are so many aspects of this relationship that are just complicated and not going my way. And that's why I feel so done in. Okay, so if you've ever watched my videos, all of them, you'll know. And even if you haven't watched them and you just had a flip through the titles, you will see that we had battles over the garden, battles over the house, battles over the children, battles over my driving, battles over everything. Like, everything has been a battle. And how we ended up here in this house is he badgered me and badgered me and badgered me and badgered me to leave my house that I had purchased before I met him. Even going so far as to bring it up with one of the counsellors who'd said to me, well, you can't stay there forever. And I was thinking, why not? Like, I love that house. Anyway, so we sell that house and we move in here. Now, if I was to ask any of the people in this street, did you want to move here? I would hazard a guess that majority of them were like, yes, my husband and I, or my wife and I, worked together and decided this is where we're going to live and these are the colours that we're going to have, and etc, etc. And it wasn't like that for me / us. It was him saying, we need to sell your house and get a better, bigger, more wonderful house to fit family members in when they come to stay. And mostly he means his, but anyway. And your house just isn't good enough to have these people in. It's too small, it's too pokey. And so in the end, I don't know how long he went on and on and on and on and on about it. But I know that it was a long time and it wore me down eventually, and we moved here. And I don't like it here. I have never really loved this house. I've never liked the size of it. I've never liked the fact that it's massive. And I'm the one who has to clean majority of it, which is doing my head in. 2 bathrooms, 2 toilets. I guess in the States you'd call that a half bathroom or something. Anyway, 2 showers, 2 bathtubs. Really annoying. The house that I bought before I met him had high ceilings and floor to ceiling windows, especially in the front room. It got this beautiful amount of light. It was a lovely room to sit in. You could see the garden and the street. It was a really pretty cottage-style house. The house we're in at the moment is dark no matter how many windows you open. What time of the day it is. There's always shadows, there's always something. It's like the sun goes this way and the windows are that way, and you don't get any sunlight. And hence, that's where they're driving to the beach and then looking at the houses and how pretty they were, and I'm just kind of sitting there and thinking, I'm just not living my authentic life, as all those gurus will say. And getting back to what I was alluding to at the start with the friend who was telling me I was negative Nelly. There are so many areas of my life that are not going the way that I want. And that is what really gets you down in the end. You find, and maybe not in all cases, but I don't know, majority of the cases, when you're in a relationship with somebody on the spectrum, there's a lot of bending and adapting that you have to do to please them and not upset them and not aggravate them and keep them happy and, keep the noise down, keep everything, shh, kind of thing. And so you just adapt this and change that and do that and don't do that and da-da-da-da until in the end you're living the life they want and not really the life that you want. And that's kind of where I'm at the moment. I'm just kind of sitting here and thinking, how did I get here? There are just so many things that are just not how I wanted them to be. And yet I'm here and I just have to deal with it. I just have to live with it. Like not being able to play my music. And even that in itself, like, is such a saga. You couldn't imagine. So we move here, and I've mentioned that we now have a situation where I can play my music in the front room and he will be up the back room listening to telly. So I can finally have my music playing. But there's always a but. For majority of the time, the room here was carpeted, which means you can't dance. So I couldn't dance at all because it was carpet. And you can't slide on carpet, your feet just grip. So I was trying things like getting pieces of wood and putting them on the floor, getting linoleum and putting them on the floor, doing all this stuff, trying to make it that I had a space to dance-a-size. Because when I moved in with him, his whole house was carpet except for a spare room that had a whole bunch of junk in it. No dancing there, no dancing in my house, my little cottage, because there was only one living area, and if he had the telly on, bad luck Donald Duck, I couldn't play my music. And so then we move into this big house, and I can't dance anyway because the rooms are carpeted. And it wasn't until we had the cave-in with the roof and it flooded and we got the carpet taken out and I finally got floorboards put down, and that was, I don't know, 5-6 odd years ago, that I've finally been able to dance. And by now I'm really unfit and tired all the time, so it's just messing with your head at every turn. And so you don't mean to be negative, Nellie, but you just find yourself having all these kind of frustrating moments that if you speak them out loud, which I do, they sound negative, they are negative. You just kind of look back on it all and just think every which way I tried to do something, I was foiled again. However, I am going to end this on a positive note. Lo and behold, bowl you over with that feather. Recently, my Aspie son said to me, you know how when you're growing up and you have crappy parents and you say to yourself, I'm not going to do what they did, I'm going to be a better parent and do a better job? And I was like, yes. I know exactly that feeling. I definitely thought that myself. And he said, well, I don't feel that way. I don't feel like I could ever do a better job than you did. He said, you did such an amazing job, there is no better. Oh my God. Wow. What a compliment. I was so touched, just wowza. And it made me feel a little bit better about my life and my situation, because I had always wanted to be a parent. I had always wanted to show my mum, as you do, this is how you do it. Not that crappy old way you did it. With your put downs and your mean statements and whatever. That's not how you raise children. And you're not caring about what's going on in their world. That's not how you raise children. And I wanted to sort of show her, up your bum with a plum, this is how it's done. And so for him to say that, I thought, oh God, that's so nice. Something in my world has worked well. I was a good parent. That at least went well for me. And I'm just going to say this, not to throw my husband under the bus. He has certainly contributed in certain ways, like I've mentioned. He buys their clothes, he pays their school bills, he buys their school books. He's that kind of practical parent. But the children being raised the way that they have, it's just about Buckley's and none to do with him, because he fought me at every turn. Like, you couldn't imagine. Okay? I say you couldn't imagine, but let's try to imagine. You know you're a good parent. You know you're going to do a good job. You know you're a good person. And you can't wait to show the world how great a parent you are, only to get into a relationship with somebody on the spectrum who fights you at every turn, breaks your boundaries, tells you you're too strict, breaks all your rules, plays soft cop, good cop with the kids, wants to be the favourite, starts pitting them against you, and you're thinking, oh my God. The one thing that, I could be doing really well if you just shush and listen to me. It'd all be fine, but no, he has to fight me at every turn. But, thankfully, my saving grace is that he works away a lot. Phew. And I have had the opportunity to single parent exactly the way that I wanted. And so to hear that from my son and to hear that it worked, man, I'm so glad. Especially since, because he was fighting me at every turn, I thought he'd wrecked it. I thought he'd sabotaged everything so badly that everything was just screwed and I'm doomed. And my goal to be this great mum who my kids look up to and my door's always open, come and speak to me about everything and anything, was going to be ruined because of him. And we had moments there, touch and go. And I remember going through real depressions because the kids were kind of being a bit ick because he was playing them against me. And I remember just thinking, oh no, this is just worst case scenario. And here my son gave me that compliment, so all is not lost. Yeah, so it's really kind of funny, these relationships. They're so fraught with tension, fraught with battles. And I mentioned earlier about how it's always their way or the highway. And I really have to say at this point in time that I imagine there'd have to be people who are on the spectrum living with partners who are controlling their every move and making their life misery. There'd have to be the flip side, without a doubt. And so I'm not sort of saying that all autistic people are just ruining neurotypical lives and all this kind of stuff. I'm sure there's plenty of neurotypicals ruining autistic people's lives just as much. But it just so happens that in my case and a number of the people that I've spoken to are in situations where they've had to curb a lot of their own needs and interests and such to cater to their partners. And, that is obviously detrimental to their mental health. But obviously there'd be autistic people who are having a crappy time and it's detrimental to their mental health. So, I guess it's all about finding some kind of random happy medium, something that works, something that, tries to appease the both of you. It just so happens that in my case, my husband's not really that kind of person. He's getting there now, he's getting a bit better. But he certainly wasn't in the early and middle years, because he just wanted control of everything and to do it all his way, whether it was the right way or not. And so ironic, because there's this Robbie Williams song where it says, "Why do you always doubt there can be a better way? It doesn't make me want to stay." That's a quote that he says to me about how he feels about the relationship. And I was thinking, you're the one who doesn't realise there could be a better way. And it makes me not want to stay. It's not me, it's you. Yeah. So, the point of this video is there are so many ways that it plays havoc with your world. There are so many ways it plays havoc with your mental health, your physical health, your mental well-being, all of that. Like, it's so complicated. And even though he's decent enough and he's bringing stuff to the table, there's whole bunches of things that I've just had to back down on to make it that we're living in a semblance of harmony. And I just wanted to put that out there, for those people like his friend who says that you're so negative. You have no idea. You can't fathom the complications that are involved in a relationship like this. And I wanted to say too, it's not even like we're having great sex. It's not even like, I don't know, he's Mr. Romantic. It's not as though he's Mr. Complimentary. There are all these troubles and issues and boundaries broken and conflicts and fights and blah, 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 blah. And what he brings to the table is financial well-being, which is in itself something. Don't get me wrong, not downplaying that. Certainly kudos to him. But it isn't enough to counteract all of the stuff that is negative and hard and irritating. And that's the thing that people don't realise. That they'll look at him and they'll go, but he's such a sweet guy. And he is. He's generous. He wouldn't hurt a fly. He's not the kind of person that will hurt animals and things. He's got a heart, he's got compassion, and I'm grateful for that, but it's not enough to counteract all the stuff that is missing. Anyway, so I don't really know how that I live my authentic life. I don't even know at this stage it's even possible. But at least I did a good job with the children and they're thankful for it, so yay. Anyway, over to you. Can you relate? Do you find that people find it really hard to understand the complexities of the relationship and why it is so hard for you? I found that a lot of people give those answers like, oh, that's just all men. All men do that. Or then I get the flip side of, oh, my husband never does that. Okay, which is it, people? Anyway, over to you. Can you relate? Are you living your authentic life? Comment below. Love to hear from you, and thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I really do appreciate it.